Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. The boss did bad things to our OP. The revenge plan will surprise you. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. I'm sick and I can't go home early. Okay. Former military, so no kidding, there I was. Monday through Friday, I was coming in prior to 6 a.m. for physical training. Work call was 9 a.m. I'd shower at the gym and be at work well before 9 a.m. I'd been working late, 8 p.m., and coming in on Saturdays and the occasional Sunday in order to keep up with the workload. I'm not inefficient. After I left, 2 people did the job I was doing by myself. We were supposed to get flu shots, but there was a shortage or some nonsense, and we didn't get them in a timely fashion. Other units got them before we did because of reason 1, reason 2, whatever. So my spouse is a nurse. Much like a kindergarten teacher, my spouse gets sick frequently from all the sick people she's exposed to. Of course, everything that she gets, I get. Anyway, I was feeling really ill. I was obviously running a fever and doing poorly. I knew I was contagious. I asked my boss if I could go home early and come in late the next day because of how awful I felt. Did I already mention my hours? Yes, I did. Also, he generally skipped physical training, came in late and left early. I was okay with that, but if I asked for a few hours off, it shouldn't be a big deal. He said no, an emphatic no. Then he went home early. Okay, cool, no worries. I stuck it out. I continued on the same work schedule as always. His boss, my senior boss, noticed that I was moving slowly, has a winter coat on indoors, and was coughing and asked me why I was at work if I was so sick. He saw I was sweating and had chills. He wanted to know why I was risking getting everyone else sick. I told him my senior boss that I'd asked to go home early, but I was denied. He asked where my immediate boss was, and I told him that my immediate boss had left for the day. My senior boss stared at me for a moment, then said, "Duly noted. Please tell Major ABC to see me tomorrow." And Roger. By the way, my senior boss had deployed with me and knew my work ethic. Did I mention that my immediate boss had an official photo scheduled for early next week, as well as an interview for a very prestigious nominative position? Immediately before I went home, and as gross as this sounds, I went into his office and did the following. 1. I coughed on his phone. 2. I coughed on his computer mouse. 3. I jumped up and down until I was able to violently cough on his keyboard, doorknob, pens, desk, and armrest on his chair. Then I went home. Fast forward a few days. Guess who got sick with the flu that weekend? Yep, my immediate boss. He asked his boss, my senior boss, for some time off to get ready for his interview, to get ready for his photo, and regain some stamina due to his illness. My senior boss talked to him, and from what I could gather, he told my immediate boss that if his troopers were so critical to this mission that they couldn't go home if they were sick, then he was too. My boss was absolutely miserable, looked horrible in his photo, and bombed his interview. They called my senior boss and asked why he was working when he was sick, and my senior boss told him that my boss insisted that everyone must work no matter how sick they were. Fast forward a few weeks or so, I was fully recovered and feeling good. My boss was almost recovered. I asked him how the interview went and if he got the position. I got the death stare. I think he knew that I knew and suspected that I got him sick, but screw him for being a jerk when he didn't need to be. And our second story. Apparently, I'm expendable. I got my first job at the ripe old age of 19. I hadn't finished college, but I was friendly and easily landed a job in food service. I was an excellent employee. I could keep the dining room pristine and run a front register or run the drive-thru solo even on weekends, which was impressive because my store was located in a college town. We were so busy that we had the record for highest sales hourly, daily, and weekly for a long time. I excelled at this job to the point that I received the Employee of the Month award 3 times. We were limited to once every 6 months in the first year and a half I worked with the company, which was accompanied by a 25-cent an hour raise. Changes at home led to my moving to another city and transferring to another location. This store was toxic. I had to restart all my tests to qualify as a trainer and couldn't get promoted to save my life, even as people I trained, in spite of not having the title, pay, or red shirt associated with being a trainer, were being promoted to trainers and managers. The location had high turnover, no employee of the month, and kept jerking my schedule around to plug holes in the schedule. I kept coming into work, still smiling and friendly, convinced that if I just kept working hard, it'd pay off, since there was no way this store could be that different from my former home store. 10 months later, I was tired, angry, and anxious. The drive to work nearly made me throw up from how stressed I became, and my customer service smile became more an expression of panic than pleasure as I blasted customer complaints. Everywhere seems to have a customer service acronym, don't ask me why. I still came in, primarily to help my team, many of whom I was fond of. Then our GM left to mismanage a new, bigger store. In his place, we received a woman I'll call S. S was an awful woman. She'd done some of her MIT training at the beginning of my time at the second store during her pregnancy, and we'd all written off her terrible attitude and bad decision-making as pregnancy hormones. This was apparently not the case. She became even more tyrannical and abrasive. My schedule stabilized into a nightmare of working from 5 to close 6 nights a week, putting me at 60 to 64 hours a week. The part that killed me wasn't the hours, though. It was her frequent declaration of my uselessness. I was described as expendable, replaceable, and a waste. These were not one-off comments. They were worked into almost every single conversation I had with this woman for 6 straight weeks. I started looking for another job around the 3-week mark. I received a call from one of the places and applied for and went through the interview process, culminating in a conditional job offer. F yes. The call came right in after I clocked in, and as luck would have it, right before S noticed me, my intent was to turn in my 2 weeks, but then came the words from her mouth, "Ugh, you again? I don't know why you bother coming in. Any of my cashiers can do your job." I froze. Then I smiled. "Okay then, you should let them know that. Bye." I clocked out, said my goodbyes, and refused her call asking me to return the day before orientation at my new job. After all, I'm expendable, and anyone can do my job, right? ETA got a hold of one of my former colleagues, and the fallout was pretty sweet. Apparently, S tried to force several cashiers to take those shifts. Most refused, since minors can't work those kinds of hours, but the other 2 tried to handle it and couldn't. One quit, the other demanded to be put back on day shift, or she'd quit too. Plan B was to force some of the kitchen staff that I'd trained to take the hours, but they only cross-trained to get promoted, not because they wanted to work with the public. It culminated in 4 of the 6 other closers quitting. That forced day shift people with open availability sheets into closing shifts, eventually leading to another fairly large exodus. She lost nearly a third of her store altogether. Within 6 months, she'd lost the store and eventually her job. The store's still constantly hiring, but the turnover is stabilized to relatively normal food service levels, and one of the 2 closers who stayed is now the GM. He worked hard and put up with a lot of crap to get the position, and I'm glad someone with a heart is in charge now. As to why I didn't escalate the situation, our DM had recently left the company, and he was the only one who had contact information up for employees to see. Corporate seemed content to leave us DM-less, and that realization is what led to me putting in applications. If my company didn't care about me, there was no reason for me to care about my company. I didn't realize that there was any legal recourse to be had. I was young, dumb, and sleep-deprived. And our last story. We need that house more than you because we have kids. 5 years ago, my husband and I bought a house. We'd been saving for years for the down payment, and the stars must have aligned for us to get it. Everything worked out perfectly. The house was a major fixer-upper, but it had land, and we were happy with that. Turns out brother-in-law had looked at the house when it was listed as well. They decided it was too much work to fix it up and not worth it. They wanted major upgrades too, whereas my husband and I are very simple people. We don't need granite countertops or a soaking tub or hardwood throughout. Met up with the family recently, and the brother-in-law was talking about how cramped their condo has become with 2 kids now. Brother-in-law decided this was the time to tell us we should trade houses. I crap you not. Brother-in-law is very, very entitled. Brother-in-law proceeded to argue that we're only 2 people and their family's growing and could use the space. Literally suggested that we give ours to him and buy out his condo. I laughed. I knew he was serious, but I couldn't help but laugh. I'd never in my life imagined someone could be so damn entitled that they demand someone give up their home for the sake of another family. Are you kidding me? Brother-in-law then got mad at me for not even considering it and began justifying all the reasons his family needed our house more. Oh, you think this would be the worst part, right? No, it gets better. We never finished the basement, so there's only one bathroom in the house. Brother-in-law informed me that if we were to trade houses, that we'd need to make some major upgrades first, because he wouldn't have time to be able to make any renovations. He was somehow inexplicably certain that I would see the logic in this plan and just trade houses with them, because they needed the extra space so much more. And now my brother-in-law isn't talking to me because I laughed through the whole thing and wouldn't take him seriously. Win-win. Go ahead, punish me by not talking to me. At least then you'll stop trying to make me feel bad because I have 2 spare rooms I don't use. My husband and I each have an office. And tell everyone how horrible I am because I wouldn't buy out your condo at market value while giving you ours out of the goodness of our hearts. Last I knew, he was now trying to tell my father-in-law to retire and move into the city so they could have the farm. Joke's on him, father-in-law already talked about it and has left the farm to me and my husband in his will because we actually farm and brother-in-law thinks it's too much work. I always thought the internet exaggerated that people like this exist. I thought situations like this couldn't possibly be real. What in the hell are these people thinking? Obviously, OP has unlimited money because they don't have children. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.